I don't know. We'll have to Google that one. Okay, we're going to get closer to this in a minute, but this is really, really good for getting the big picture of the Civil Rights Museum on the right-hand side. Back in the 1960s, as a citizen of Memphis, you were allowed to have your garbage cans in your backyard, and the garbage man would come empty them. You could have up to a 55-gallon oil drum in your backyard. The men would come into your backyard with knapsacks on their back where they would unload the garbage into these knapsacks and carry it out to trucks where they would hand pack it into these big dump trucks, these big semi-sized dump trucks. Near the 1968, when all this kind of went down, they were starting to get the compactor trucks. The men worked between 60 and 80 hours a week, no benefits whatsoever. Didn't matter if you were there one day or if you'd been there 30 years, you're going to get paid $1.40 to $1.50 an hour. By the way, the going rate was between the minimum wage in America was $1.50 an hour during that time. So it was, but it was minimum wage and no benefits. They were having strikes to try to start a union here. Before Dr. Martin Luther King came, they had a rally a couple of weeks before that, and one black man was killed off the rally, not during the rally, but just offside of it. It was because of the rally. So there was a federal injunction, so no more rallies. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came here. He had promised the president and the attorney general and everyone else he could hold a rally here and do it peacefully. The afternoon that he was killed, his brother was at the federal courthouse and had convinced the judge that they could do just that. They could hold a peaceful rally. They believed him. So they lifted the injunction that afternoon. He had just had a pillow fight with his brother who'd come back into the court because they were so happy that they'd gotten the federal court permission to have a rally tomorrow. He then got on the phone and talked to his little children, and then he and his brother and a few others walked out that door right behind that wreath. Almost 7 p.m. in the evening, and a shot rang out. James Earl Ray Jr., who was in this boarding house here to our front right. He was standing in a bathtub, which had a waist-high window. He had a 30-06 with the scope. I don't know if anybody's hunters here. That is not a long shot. You're shooting a stationary target that's not moving when you have a rifle and a scope. And by the way, he was at the back of the building, so you can take another 50 yards off that shot. That is not a long shot. He hit the doctor in the neck, literally blew his necktie off of him. He bled out very, very quickly. I'm not even sure if it had happened today, if it could have been saved, because so many veins right there in the neck and everything. Memphis was immediately put on a curfew a day and a half later than that. There were no riots like you see nowadays in the news around the world. Nothing like that happened. I was 16 years old. I went home and stayed there for 3 days because I thought they burned the city down. They didn't. It all was held very, very peaceful, and I'm very proud of the way Memphians handled that. After all of that, and after they finally got their union established, they got a 10-cent an hour raise. He was caught a few weeks later at Heathrow Airport. Right here. And the only reason he was caught was because he had a loaded .38 pistol in his pocket. They were not looking for him. No one was looking for him. No one knew what happened to him. He just disappeared. If he hadn't had that loaded pistol, he'd have made it to Zimbabwe, Rhodesia, which is where he was headed, where he thought they would hold him as a national hero. Second traffic sign. Because he killed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, okay. That was a white regime, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, he pled guilty to all charges to not have the death penalty put on him. After he was convicted, he then told everybody that he did not do it. He didn't know what anybody was talking about. He did talk to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s children before he died, and he told them, "I did not kill your daddy." Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter says he was pretty convincing. The evidence is in the museum. If you ever had a chance to see it, you can decide for yourself. They have all the evidence of what happened that day and how it happened, the timelines, the rifles, the bullets, and everything else, and you can look at it all and make up your own mind if you think he did it or not. When I was here a week or so ago, a black man walked up over here who again preached to all my people that James Earl Ray had nothing to do with it. There was another guy sitting over here who did it, and he knows the guy's name, and he's talked to him, and the guy's missing me. It is a quandary. If you look at all the evidence, I think it was James Earl Ray. You know, I mean, I don't see how you come to any other conclusion. The place was crawling with police that day, but the trees were up there like they were, just almost like they are now. And you go, well, why did they allow him to stay at an open-air motel? This was the place to stay if you were a black man in America. You name them, from Sammy Davis Jr. to Satchmo to Belafonte, to you name the entertainer or the other black person that was a prominence in America, they all stayed here. This was a very famous hotel. It was downtown Memphis where people wanted to be.
That woman over there has been protesting for 35 years.
About 35 years. She does not think we should be celebrating it. It should not be celebrated. She's a very honest woman. That's what she believes, and she has been there for almost over half my life. She's been standing out there.
Wow.
She says she wants to close. The protest says she wants this museum moved, and this turned over for housing for the homeless. She doesn't want it shut. She wants it moved.
Turn right on South Main. Now, after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed, this part of town dried up and went away. This became no man's land. It wasn't for almost 15 years later that a few black businessmen got together. Right down the middle of the road. No, and some black men started buying all these things out and started renovating. As you'll notice now, all these buildings have to stay as they were in the 1960s. So you'll see a lot of them being renovated, but they're being renovated to look like they were then.
60 shaky.
This is the hottest part of town to get moved into now. Come down here on a Friday and Saturday night, and it is crazy. Great restaurants around here. On the left-hand side coming up, you'll see Spendini's, a wonderful Italian restaurant. I like this one particularly because they'll let me park my car here if I'm going to the Orpheum, which is 4 blocks down, and the manager lets me leave my car there while I'm at the show because he knows I'm going to come back after the show and have an after-dinner drink or dessert. And so he's happy for me to do that, and I'm happy to do that. If you look at these buildings on right and left, you can see how the facades are. On the right-hand side, in the next block, you'll see one that is just all brand new lumber on the Russell hardware store, and they're going to have to renovate that. When they were trying, it all caved in on them, so they will have to redo that. Left-hand side, the rumba room. That's where you're going to do your salsa dancing. It will be a hot place there tonight. Look at this on the right-hand side now, the Chiska Hotel. You remember being over at Sun Studio, and they talked about Dewey Phillips and a red, white, and blues show that came to you from the magazine level of the Chiska Hotel, downtown Memphis. This is that Chiska Hotel. That is the magazine level, he called it. We call it mezzanine, but he called it magazine level. He also told some people he was on the 10th floor. If you count, you won't find it. There goes one of our trolleys on the left-hand side. We had old trolleys for a while. They got them over in Europe, and after the third one caught fire, they went, this is a dumb idea, and they quit doing that. We now, after 4 years, have got new trolleys that look old. You're going left here. They go right on front.